Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of Harley Quinn. Yeah, we're here with another episode. I know it feels like it's been a little bit, because I don't think we got to one last week, did we? Either way, we're back, we're getting to more. I don't know what to expect. Really, I'm not just trying to rush through this just to do so. It's like, I do want to do some other stuff today, of course, but I'm just kind of like, I don't really have anything to say. I don't have any, like, I'm liking it. I really enjoy the series, but I don't have anything to say going into it because I have no clue what's going to happen. We'll just kind of have to see. I expect Harley is going to get into more stuff involving trying to join the League of Villains, or Legion of Doom, or whatever. I expect shenanigans. Otherwise, I don't know. But I'm very much enjoying it. So, yeah. We're going to find out. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so I looked up who Will Sasso is. He was the voice of Maxie Zeus. And he was Curly in the Three Stooges movie that came out, I think, in 2012. He was also the voice of Mr. Ellingbo in Klaus. He was one of the two family. He was the head of the one family. There were two families that were feuding. He was the head of the one. The other one was Joan Rivers' character. He's also done. He's been in various other things. He's been in Family Guy a couple times. And one of those Family Guy episodes looked like it was about Joe, who is voiced by Patrick Warburton. So he maybe knows Patrick and maybe was trying to do a kind of impression of him. Because it did very much sound like Patrick Warburton at points. But again, it sounded like when Patrick Warburton is like voicing a character as being desperate, or just he gets that higher register going and stuff. Either way. So this episode focuses a lot on the concept of sexism in the supervillain world. Like that was a major theme of this episode, and to a point that has been touched on before in the first two episodes. But it was a bigger deal here, I would say. In fact, I'd say it was particularly kind of the main focus of this episode. Harley isn't getting anywhere, and we find out that one of the big reasons is that female supervillains are discriminated against in comparison to male supervillains. Male supervillains always get the, like, they're treated more as supervillains, while the females, if they try to go too big, are basically squashed in their path. The big example being the Queen of Fables. When she tried to get too big and tried to become the biggest supervillain out there, she was, instead of just being declared a supervillain and being like thrown into Arkham or whatever, she was trapped in a law book. She was basically treated completely differently from the male supervillains as a way of stamping her out before she could, do that kind of thing again. Which is a really interesting thing to bring up, like the idea that the Justice League did this, I think she said, because it's like the Justice League has plenty of female heroes in it, and one of the big three of the Justice League is Wonder Woman. So it's like, who was also in this episode, by the way. So it's just like it's interesting, I guess, that kind of concept is brought up. Like supervillain in the supervillain sphere of things, yeah. Like I can understand that kind of thing going on. Like the biggest supervillains being male and the female ones never quite getting the respect or attention in the supervillain scope in their world. But the idea that the heroes were kind of acting like that too, I don't know. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's just how she viewed it, but there was definitely the point of the sexism nonetheless. Um, and that very much continues to seem to be the thing. I mean, in the end, Harley only succeeded in getting this attention, getting this crew together and everything after pretty much everything else failed. She went to this agency for supervillains that was supposed to give her a crew. Like that was their entire point. But when they found out that she wasn't working with the Joker anymore, that she went solo, they basically told her, fuck off. Unless you're with the Joker, you're not valuable. And in real life, there's a lot of people who treat women that way. If you're not with a man, then you have no value. That a woman's place is to be with a man, to support him and give him babies and stuff. Hell, it's there. A lot of right wing Christians believe that kind of thing. Believe that women are basically, literally, a tool for men to use, in a way. I'm not saying all of them do by any means, but they believe that the Bible like basically says that women are lesser, which it doesn't, by the way. Um, it's just okay. To the point. To the point. Sexism is alive. It is alive, and it sucks that it's alive, but it is. And they're definitely focusing on that in here. And I haven't seen Birds of Prey yet, the live-action Birds of Prey movie, but I've heard that that has a kind of focus on sexism too. Um, so I mean, I've already been interested. um, so I'm kind of seeing a connection with that, and I think that's just kind of been a thing with Harley Quinn, like with the going away from the Joker storyline, trying to make it on her own as a female supervillain. Because let's be honest, most of the big name supervillains are male. Um, and the female ones aren't as big, aren't as popular, aren't as well known. When you think of supervillains in the DC universe, you think of Lex Luthor. You think of the Joker, Penguin, Two-Face. You think of characters like that. You don't think of Cheetah. I mean, sure, some people, of course, do. But just in general, it's like Cheetah is. If you were asked on the street to name one supervillain, you most likely wouldn't say Cheetah. You would most likely say Joker or Lex Luthor or someone like that. And that's the thing. It's like, it's because the comic writers haven't given them as much focus and attention. Like, you're more likely to name a female superhero, to be fair. Um, but in this, on top of just that general sexism from how female supervillains don't get a chance to shine, there's also just a lot more blatant stuff. Maxie Zeus, super fucking sexist in this. Basically, he views women as a prize. Then again, Maxie Zeus is gross in a lot of ways. But you could tell, like, the instant Harley comes into his dressing room and all, he sees her instantly as like, oh, there's a girl in my dressing room. She must want to have sex with me. And then, like, when she explains why she's there and everything, it's like, oh, you'll never get anywhere. And then you have Dr. Psycho, And even beyond the use of the C word, which, let's be honest, that is completely dependent on where you're from. Because people from the UK actually use that word pretty often, and it's just part of their vocabulary. And to them in the UK, it's not as bad. Really, it's here in like America and Canada and stuff where it's like where the C word is as bad as it is. And to be fair, that's where this series is from, but still. So yeah, it's like that's definitely a regional thing. Um, but more so than that, I mean, it's clear that he viewed Harley and just women in general as tools, as something for sex, or um, an object for to serve you. And Dr. Psycho, besides using the C word, he showed like apparently he mind controlled Giganta into thinking that she loved him, and was speaking for her during that interview and stuff. Dr. Psycho, and he's constantly like trying to say like, "Oh, I don't hate women." It's like, no, I love women, I respect women, and everything. It's like, using the C word alone isn't like a sign that he hates women, for one. Um, but more than that, it's like usually when people consistently like repeat that mantra as a defensive mechanism, it usually means that they're not completely truthful about that. I'm not saying that he completely hates women. It's more along the lines of he looks down on them. When people like repeat that to try and defend themselves, they're usually it's kind of half and half. They definitely don't respect and treat women as they should, but they don't necessarily hate them. That's how it usually tends to be for people who act like that. Um, so it's like, I mean, I guess an example would be the president. And yes, I know I'm getting political and shit, but deal with it. This show kind of brings up that discourse. Um, I don't believe Donald Trump legitimately hates women. I don't. And honestly, I think that he's loved his various wives to a point, and other women he's cheated on them with, and yada yada. Donald Trump is scum, but I think he does care for women to a point, but not to the point that he should, and that is reflected in a lot of his policies that have definitely hurt women. Um, and I think that's kind of the biggest connection you can probably draw from this and um, in real life. But in the end, Harley does succeed. She goes against the grain and is starting to prove herself. She takes out Maxie Zeus, gets him to admit on live television that Harley Quinn's crew is nothing to be fucked with. On top of that, she steals his gold medals and trades them for the warhead, which she then uses to blackmail the city and get her goal of naming a street after herself. Everything works out. Everything that she planned to do and wanted to do, even the smaller aspects of it, like again getting a street named after yourself, that was her goal. It may have been a small goal, but it was still her goal, and she made it happen. And I think that's what this episode was trying to say, other than just obviously the sexist stuff. It was trying to say that if a woman has a goal and works hard to achieve it, she can make it happen. That she can make those goals and dreams and aspirations come true if she puts in the effort, just like any man can. It's saying that women can be just as successful as men. It's not putting down men at all. It's just saying women can be as successful, that they're not lesser, that there is that equality to them. And I bet you anything that going forward, not only Joker, but other male supervillains are going to try to stamp that out. They're going to try to stop her so that they aren't outshined by her. I bet you anything. And I bet you society will try to downplay her. Media will try to downplay her. I bet you anything going forward. And some people might see this as like, oh, it's trying too hard to push an agenda. It's being ridiculous and too over the top with this. This isn't realistic. But it honestly, unfortunately, is. It is a very realistic portrayal of sexism in the media, in the workplace, etc., etc. And by her continuing to fight for that, and by the possibility that now everyone's going to try to squash her and delegitimize, is it delegitimize? Yeah, it would have to be delegitimize her. It's like, that's realistic too. That happens all the time. I mean, there were so many people in 2016 who blatantly outright said they would never vote for Hillary just because she's a woman. Like, even ignoring policy stuff, it's like they said they would just simply not vote for her because she's a woman and the leader of the nation should be a man. There were people who said that, a lot of people. This kind of shit does happen to this day. Because there have been people who said the same thing about Elizabeth Warren in this current presidential race. And it's unfortunately going to keep happening as long as we allow it to. But the world is definitely in a better place than it used to be with that, and it's hopefully going to continue getting better. But we have to continue pushing it to get better. So, yeah. So when people like to criticize shows or movies that say this kind of stuff, that use these kind of messages and ideas for their programming, I just say, like, maybe you're the kind of person who should be learning from this. If you think that this is such a bad thing, maybe you're the person that it's speaking to. And there's a lot of people who try to defend that, saying like, oh no, I just don't want politics in my shows. It's like everything is political. Politics shape your entire worldview. It shapes everyone's entire worldview, how they view everything. Politics is inescapable. Trying to say you don't want politics in your shows is illogical and impossible. You're not going to watch a show that doesn't have politics in it, to some degree. And yeah, some may be a lot more blatant about it. But I think those are the ones that are trying to teach a message. And the ones that honestly are trying to tell people things, are trying to make a statement. And I think that those ones deserve to be watched, because those statements deserve to be said, deserve to be shared. I mean, hell, when Mary Tyler Moore became the first woman to wear pants on television, you don't think that was a political statement? You don't think Lucille Ball made political statements with I Love Lucy? No. Women, this has been going on forever, and it's going to keep going on. This kind of stuff needs to keep happening because, again, the discrimination is still there. And in this case, it's done in a fun, ridiculous, over-the-top way with these DC Comics characters we've throughout the years grown to love and find really entertaining. And so they're doing it in a way that makes sense for the characters, makes sense for how things go in this universe, and in honestly the comic book industry. And it works that it's Harley Quinn because of the story that she's had through the comics about stepping away from Joker and becoming her own person and her own villain. And it works having the other supervillains be like that. Because they would be. Of course Lex Luthor would be like that. Of course the Joker would be like that. It works within the context still. But it's also cool to see other outcasts teaming up with her. You have Ivy, you have Clayface, you have Dr. Psycho, all these different outcasts who are looked down on for different reasons team up with her. And that in itself is another powerful message of this show so far. And I speak as an outcast. I'm an outcast in a lot of ways. My size, my being a trans woman, being LGBT in general, having mental illnesses, not having a job. In a lot of ways, I am an outcast of society. And stuff like this speaks to me when it shows that outcasts can be powerful. Even, and yes, I know they're villains, and yes, I know they're doing terrible things, but even so, the concept of, even if they're villains, the concept of these outcasts coming together, forming some kind of bonds, working together and being successful, it's inspiring in a way. And yeah, I know this concept has been done before. I believe that's kind of what The Breakfast Club is about. I've never seen The Breakfast Club, but I believe that's what it's about. And there's various other movies and shows and games where the outcasts are the main characters because that's what people relate to. So they tell stories from that point of view. Hell, you could say Max from Life is Strange is an outcast. And Chloe by extension as well. There's so many examples you could take from that. Deku from My Hero Academia, very much an outcast at first. Very much, and that's literally the point of his story at the start. So it's like all these people telling these stories because it's what they experienced, whether for themselves or for people they've known. And so they want to have other people who have gone through these things experience what that kind of emotion can lead to and show that even outcasts can be awesome. And so, yeah, I love shows like this that showcase that and showcase the political shit and showcase all that kind of important stuff that does need to be talked about. Hell, I think that it's the best way to talk about all that political shit. Show it in the cartoons, in the video games, in the books, because it tells you that political shit. It delivers it in a digestible, enjoyable way. You're having fun watching the series, but you're also taking in that information in a way that sticks with you better than it would otherwise if you were just listening to like a political debate or something, or reading an article. So yeah, I really like how this is going. I really like that aspect of things. But on top of it, I just enjoy the series. It's fun. While Kaylee Cuoco would not be my favorite Harley Quinn in terms of voice acting, she's doing a good job. Everyone is doing a good job. We have some great voice actors, great names, great comedy, ridiculousness. It's so fucking over the top. It's kind of hilarious. It's a fun series. And you still understand through watching it that, yeah, you're following the bad guys. you understand that they're the bad guys, that they're evil, that they're doing terrible things, but it's funny. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's not meant to like inspire you to follow their lead. It's just meant to entertain you and teach you a little bit about how our world is and how we should work to fix that. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this episode and I'm really enjoying this series. Tell me what you thought down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.